My name is Al Campbell. I've been teaching at Moraine since 2004, and I need your help. But before I explain the help that I need, let me tell you a couple things about who I am. My father moved from an insurance company in Philadelphia, where he worked after World War II, to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, when I was at the end of my elementary school years. So we moved from Pennsauken, New Jersey, a nice middle-class community and an average school system where I was doing very well, to Mount Lebanon, which was, my father didn't go to college because of the war, and he wanted to find the best school system in the Pittsburgh area to send his kids so his kids could go to college. So we went to Mount Lebanon. Mount Lebanon was the best school system in the Pittsburgh area. It was the wealthiest community in western Pennsylvania. And to top that, it was the 19th best school system in the entire country. And that had a profound negative effect upon me. I learned two things in Mount Lebanon. One was I was dumb, and the second one was I was poor. The second thing happened to transformational issue in my life occurred in 2008 when I fell off of a ladder and cracked my head open, had a subdural hematoma or traumatic brain injury. I was in intensive care for 4 weeks. They didn't think I was going to make it. And I did. I also had prostate cancer that had metastasized outside the prostate. And on both of those medical issues, my two dances with death were both negative. And there was a real question whether I was going to make, especially the subdural hematoma, get through that. But that was a negative effect upon me, but now it is a positive effect. I know that my clock is ticking. So I've learned two things from two negative experiences, the dumb and poor and the medical issues, that they really turned out to be blessings, because I am geared and driven to help my students in the United States. I've taught at Moraine, I've taught at St. Francis, and I've taught at DeVry. And every class I've ever taught has heard about me saying to them about, I made a mistake when I was young about being dumb and poor, and I don't want my students to make the same mistake about being dumb. Students are capable of more than they can imagine. They just need somebody to reinforce it. So I had been teaching at Moraine on site, but I live in Crown Point. It takes at least 2.5 hours to get there to Palos Hills from Crown Point and back again. And I'd rather teach online and not waste the time on the road. And so I went to see Dr. Jenkins, who wasn't the president at the time, but she was the head of the Center for Teaching and Learning. And I said, I want to go online. And she said, okay, just make sure that you do as well online as you've done on site. And so I started teaching philosophy, intro to philosophy, a couple of classes each semester. And then I went to Nick Thomas and asked him about, can you put onto what students can take online world religion? It's not there, but I would like to teach both the two philosophy classes I've been teaching for a couple of years and also world religion, or world religions. And he did that. So I was teaching philosophy and I was teaching world religion, and things were going fine. And one day, Wally Fresnick told me that he was taking me out of the philosophy class, and I said, why? I've been teaching it for years here. I've taught philosophy at St. Francis and DeVry before, and he never said I wasn't qualified to teach philosophy. He said, you're qualified to teach world religions. And I said, I know that, but why can't I teach philosophy? And he didn't have, all he could come back with the mantra, you're qualified to teach this. He did not say that I wasn't qualified to teach philosophy. And so why did I lose those 2 classes? Because he gave it to a friend of his. And I didn't, so what was I going to do? And that was when I joined the union. And then 2 semesters ago, so I've been teaching world religions 300 and 301. And then 2 semesters ago, Nick Thomas, who was the one that hired me, just let me teach 300. And I couldn't understand why. And I asked a couple of people, I could never get him to answer. And I asked a couple of people that worked in the department, and they had no idea. I couldn't believe it. And this is where, I told you before that the reason for my teaching wasn't to make money. I was retired, I had a pension plan, I could live without making a lot of money or even money at all in teaching, but it was my opportunity to help other students so they didn't make the same mistake I made. And it was taken away from me. But in the meantime, I travel a great deal. I went to school overseas. I taught overseas. I taught an American class in China and Tibet. I love traveling. But about 7 years ago, I went to Myanmar, which used to be called Burma. It's between Thailand and Bangladesh. And I went there to interview, I tried to interview Aung San Suu Kyi, and I failed. But I was up in Inle Lake, which is in the northern part of Myanmar, and I had a tour guide, and in Myanmar the roads are, Myanmar is an emerging military dictatorship. It is a poor country, and the roads aren't great. So most of the tourism consists of private tours where you would have a person had a car and a tour guide. They would sit in the front seat, and I sat in the back seat, and they'd drive you to where you want to go. And before I left Inle Lake, and this was 7 years ago, Momo, my tour guide, said, I had to pick up your itinerary after you leave here and where you're going to go in the hotel and all that. And I just had to stop. Take me 5 minutes, pick it up this paper at my house. But you could also meet my daughter, who was home on winter break from school. And her daughter's name is Titi, and she was 9 years old at the time. And I walked into their home, and there was this 9-year-old kid. Hi, my name is Titi. Do you want to play some games? And there are 2 things I learned while I was playing Scrabble with Titi. One is that she's part of my family, and she's a bridge that united my American family to her family in Myanmar. She is as much a part of my family as my 3 kids and my grandchildren in the States. The other thing that I noticed was that this child, at at that time, I was 9 years old, was brilliant. So I went back again for my second trip, and I said to Titi when I went back the second time, we've emailed back and forth over the years, and I said, I want to know what you're going to do when you get out of college. Now, they don't have the money. I mean, prior to this year, I sent them probably a couple $1,000s every year because they don't have money, and they're my family, so I'm going to help them. And I said, I want you to tell me what you're going to do when you get out of college. And I said, I mean, she knew that her parents didn't have the money. She knew that I was going to pay for it. And I said, I will pay for it if you tell me what you want to do when you get out of college. And she did. She told me what she wanted to do. And in fact, she just started college this year. And interestingly, it's she's going to a place called Gusto University, which is in Yangon, which is kind of the capital of Myanmar. But they live up in a place called Tangier, which is in the northern part of the country. So she's doing it online right now. And so my issue about, I told you before about I teach until this year. I teach not for the money, but I don't want students to make the same mistake I did. Went back there during winter break this year. The parents and I took the kids and we went on a tour as a family. That month was the happiest month of my entire life. Saw things I'd seen before, went to cities or towns that I'd never ever heard of. And one thing we did do was before we went on a tour, we went to academic recognition, honors assembly, where she went to school, because she won the first in mathematics in the entire state of Shen State, where she lives. This child is brilliant. She's a young lady now, but she is brilliant. You can look, you can go to my webpage, you can see, just write TI, space TI, and search it, and you'll find 1,000 articles. But this is my issue prior to this year when the coronavirus came and this year I have wired my family in Myanmar about $20,000 for college expenses, but more importantly for food for the family, because they're unemployed. They're tour guides, they can't, no tourism. And they're my family, and they're not going to be hungry, and their children are going to get educated. And this is where, for me, it moves from I'm teaching not to make money, but I'm teaching so I can get students to realize their potential. And now it's moving to I'm teaching so I can save my family and help a child or a young lady in Myanmar go to college. And this is where the tension between Nick and Wally and I become a problem. I want to know why I can't teach philosophy. I want to know why I can't teach world religion. I was the one that asked Nick to put world religions on the online curriculum. And I've worked there, worked at Moraine for 16 years. I worked at St. Francis. I worked at DeVry. I have never, ever had anybody, never been in any dean's office saying, why are you doing this or why are you doing that? I mean, I take teaching too seriously. And I don't know I don't know what you people, how you people can help me. But I'd like to talk to somebody and say, hey, ask me any question you want to ask me. And you can tell me, Campbell, I think you have a case. Or you can tell me, hey, Campbell, I don't have a case, and I'll thank you very much, and drop the matter. I told you that I've done 2 dances with death. And Randy Posh, who was who grew up in Pittsburgh, was the head of the computer department at Carnegie Mellon. And he gave his last lecture when he was in his mid-40s because he was dying of pancreatic cancer. And I'll give you a link of his last lecture. When I saw that, my eyes, I had done the Dance with Death twice, and I didn't see the impact upon my life, and then I did. One of the things that Dancing with Death does for you is it tells you your clock is ticking, and therefore you better not waste the time that you have. And I'm not going to waste the time I have. And I want to do as much as I can for my family. So I'm asking you to have somebody look into this case with me and call me, email me, do something, and say, hey, Campbell, I'll answer anything you want, any question. But if there's something there's a way that you can help me, fine. If you can't, I get that. I accept that, and there's no problem. But this, my supporting of my family, not just to keep food on their table, but also education of TT, is the most important thing I'll ever do in my lifetime. But I need your help. So I'm sorry this is such a long video. It was not intended to be that way, but thank you very much. I look forward to hearing from you. Take care.